To our guest today, who is best known for being the front man of one of the most successful bands hailing from the island of Ireland. Not content with being a formidable songwriter, he has now written a companion book to the band's 8th album. It's called The Forest Is the Path. And what a beautiful piece of work it is, Gary Lightbody. Welcome.
Thank you, Ryan. Very, very nice to see you again.
It's always good to see you.
Yeah.
And what I was curious was, as somebody who's such a talented songwriter and a lyricist, the thought of writing a book, was it utterly alien, or did it feel like a natural thing to do?
Yeah, it has been alien. I have, a lot of first chapters under me bed, 20 or so.
Have you really?
Yeah, because I never had the stamina or discipline to sit down and get it done.
Yeah.
And then I think finding a little bit of stillness in my life through various things, giving up the old drink.
Yeah.
It was a big part of it. I felt when we were making this album, and I was writing the lyrics to this album, they kept spilling over the sides of the songs.
Yeah.
And I just realized I had an awful lot of thoughts and stuff that I wanted to expand upon. And I never felt like that after an album. It felt like a very natural thing to keep going, to keep writing.
Yeah.
Even though it's kind of insane to keep writing after the album's finished.
Yeah.
I didn't really think, this is going to be a book. I just let it take me where it took me, and then it became, even more, not just about the album, but about my dad as well, and that's when everything kind of started to click together.
You described it. I'm not a sport Billy by any means, but it's like you run with the album, as it were. You finish that, but you keep running. You've gone through the tape.
I Forrest Gumped it,
and you gumped it.
Yeah.
This is you Forrest Gumped it.
Yeah.
I love that. And you kept running, run, Gary, run.
Yeah.
And you kept running because you had more to give, and you had more to say, clearly. But
yeah,
is that right? Is that fair to say?
The album isn't really about my dad. So the book is maybe 65% about my dad.
Yeah.
35-40% about the album, but or at least the themes of the album. And I hadn't really sat down and wrote about the old fella since he passed. Not really, a song or two, but I felt like there was so much more to say about him.
How would you describe your dad?
Towering. He was a big presence.
Very ambiguous.
Very funny.
I was going to say that feels like an ambiguous word, towering.
Not in a menacing way.
Yeah.
Just a big shadow he cast. In fact, this first song I wrote about him after I could write about him again about a year later, was The Long Shadow. And yeah, it felt like my whole life he was the, not so much the shadow that I was casting, but the shade that I sheltered in, He was a great protector. And then I got to my rebellious teenage years, and they lasted far too long.
Yeah.
And him and I argued about everything because we were very opposite as well in the way we thought about the world. But I knew how big his heart was. He didn't know how to tell anybody how he felt about them. He showed people how he felt about them, and he showed up for people.
Yeah.
He was that type of guy.
He was there.
Yeah, he was there when you needed him. That's for sure.
Tell me about what made him laugh, or what made him funny.
What made him laugh?
Yeah. My dad used to love the likes of Dave Allen and.
No, for sure.
Fawlty
Dave Allen
Towers
would have been something that made my dad laugh. Morecambe and Wise.
Great.
Yeah, he used to tell Morecambe and Wise jokes, and as if they were his own. So anytime a police car would go past, he would go, "You're never going to sell ice cream going that fast." And I thought that it was my dad's joke for years, until I actually saw this episode of Morecambe and Wise that it was in, maybe one of the Christmas specials or something, and I was like, hang on a minute, they're using my dad's material. What's going on here?
Isn't that great? But he passed it off as his own. Isn't that great?
Yeah.
It's got more of the interview that we have for you, because he has produced this beautiful book called The Forest Is the Path, and it really is a companion piece to the most recent album. And he gave us loads of background onto what the purpose of the book is.
The book is kind of the story of the record from an angle that I didn't even really know was happening when I was writing the lyrics to the album. Mm-hmm. I had to go back in time to realize that my dad passing was the first point that the record started to get made. Yeah. It wasn't even happening at the time. there was just something that froze in me that day, that never thawed for another year. And when it did, all these songs came out, like so many different songs came out, and they weren't necessarily about him, but the book goes backwards and forwards in time, from his passing, making the album, the day after his passing, making the album, the funeral, making the album, and then a year later, and that year later was when I cried for the first time. I mean, I thought I was broken after he left us, because I didn't show emotion in the way that I thought I would.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a lot of life. It's a lot of life. You got whacked over there. We've talked about alcohol. We've talked about, in the past, I should say. Today we're talking about your dad. How would you describe yourself? How are you doing?
Well, most of the things that have happened to me in my life are self-inflicted wounds. But when a parent passes, that's not a self-inflicted wound. You know, it's something that does happen to you. Everything else, drinking, drugs, and
that's like all part of the.
That's me. That was my fault. You know what I mean? I have to, take responsibility.
Where do you find joy, Gary? What brings you happiness in the world on a given day?
Oh, so many things. So many things. I love swimming in Belfast Loch. Is my favourite thing in the world. I've seen so many extraordinary things in that loch.
Have you?
Seals swimming right up to me.
Beautiful.
Across the waves, surfing across me while I'm in the. Yeah, I'm not even kidding.
Wow.
I thought it was a shark to begin with.
Get
I thought
away.
It was dead. And this thing just went across, silver and blue, and then turned, and its wee head came up and looked at me as if to say, "That was pretty cool, right?"
It's a flipper doing a chef's kiss.
It was mega. And sea trout jumping clean out of the water, and double rainbows, and heron, and cormorants, and I mean I just love it, and it's different every day.
Your writing is beautiful, Gary, in the book, and I was so impressed because I thought, this is going to be risky for you. I had high hopes, but I just didn't know. I'm kind of concluding our chat where we ended. I didn't know if it was possible to be a lyricist and a novelist at the same time. But when you're reading back over it now, and you said yourself it's a short book, but it's a beautiful book, and it's a treatise in some ways on life and death and everything in between. When you're reading it back, do you allow yourself pride, or are you too religious in your upbringing to allow such an emotion?
There's no pride allowed.
Are you happy with it?
I'm happy with it. I'm happy with it. I hope people, the people that read it find something in it for themselves, and that would make me happy.
I think they will, and it's really good to see you, and I hope life is kind to you and that you're kind to yourself.
Getting kinder.
I hope so. And you've got a big tour coming up, coming down the tracks as well. You're going to be all over the place.
Yes, we are. We've already been around Europe and UK and Ireland, and we're heading out to the States and the rest of the world for the rest of the year.
Okay, well, look, safe travels, and thanks for coming in to see us. Your book, beautiful book, The Forest is the Path, is out on March 13th, which is Thursday. And then if people want to go and see it wherever you might be, go to snowpatrol.com for tickets and everything else in between. I always love to see you, Gary, I have to say, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Thanks for your time today.
Thank you very much. Cheers.